Well, Ibrahim El Badawi, thank you so much for joining us at Networking in Nature this morning.
No worries, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And it was a really interesting topic for us to consider life in the 21st century, the interconnected world, the multicultural world, and the opportunities that that presents. Now, we did focus on that today in terms of engaging with the wider world, with broad cultures, and creating a real positive environment around that. Now, you shared an example that I thought would be great to share with those at home and those watching around different value systems, and you mentioned Opal cards and Uber platforms.
That analogy?
As an analogy.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could just share that with those people at home, and also what are you hoping that people reflect on when they're thinking about this analogy?
Absolutely. It's an analogy that I developed to help me personally switch between the different cultural systems I'm already part of, and also encourage me to adapt to new experiences.
Okay.
So basically, this is the Opal card, the transport card we use here in Sydney. And it's not a secret that this card doesn't work in Melbourne, right?
You need a different card? You need one of these ones, the Myki
card, yes. And that's the case for transport cards, at least the ones I'm aware of, like Oyster card in London.
Yep.
They're designed to work in their home city, but not outside.
Yep.
Now, on the other side, think of Uber app, just as an example of ride-sharing apps.
Yep.
You can use Uber here in Sydney, Melbourne, New York, hundreds of cities around the world, right?
Yep.
Not only that, Uber is designed as a system to work horizontally across border, and it can adjust to some of the local cultural and business needs. Like you can order a car here, a tuk-tuk in some cities, like in Egypt, a boat in Istanbul, and I think in the near future, a helicopter in Melbourne. You can have more relaxed payment options. So it's a horizontal system, unlike this card, which is designed in a vertical, rigid, territory-based system. So I think we need to, when we encounter different situations, cultures, we need that, remember to act, we can act more like an Uber than Opal sometimes. And if you look around, the way I see it, sometimes the world is designed in an open way, actually. That is, our educational systems, business practices, and social norms prepare us to navigate life in our comfort zones, fine. But once we step outside our comfort zone, once we cross a virtual or real border into a different cultural systems, sometimes people and organizations struggle. Or when we encounter different culture in our own comfort zone, sometimes we just struggle in handling that multicultural. So it's just an analogy that we can and we should actually act in a flexible, agile way, like Uber, not always like a vertical, rigid Opal card. Otherwise, we become like an Opal card in Melbourne and miss so many beautiful opportunities.
And let's talk about that a bit more, because it's so interesting. Everyone has different cultural value systems and beliefs and paradigms which they look at the world. So, do you have any kinds of thoughts around how you can balance different cultural views and different worldviews when it comes to coexisting, collaborating, creating, working with people from diverse cultures? Are there any underlying factors that you think can really set up those relationships to be really positive and productive and healthy?
That's a $1 million question, I guess.
Sorry about that. No pressure.
Look, I've been very lucky to connect with people, like really inspiring people, who manage to have that balance and maintain, let's say, they know how to behave like an Uber app when they need, like adjust to a local new situations, while still maintain their core value of belief in. And when I reflect on it, when I think about it, I could find a common factor here in their behavior, that is trust. So they trust that people can be different, and they trust that their diversity and being different is a reason to connect, not to reject. So
Say that again.
So being different is a reason to connect, not reject. And they believe that different people with different backgrounds and culture, they bring diversity to the conversation, to the space, which is an opportunity to grow. So once we have that common trust and common respect established, we can have a fruitful conversation that help us all grow. One favorite recent example for me is from IKEA, the Swedish giant furniture
Yeah.
store. I always enjoy observing how they set up their stores differently in different cities, and how they even design their furniture products sometimes differently.
Yeah.
So last year they opened their first store in India, and before doing that, they spent some time doing their homework. So they spent their researchers to visit some Indian houses to observe how people actually live inside and how they use furniture. And then when they opened their first store in India, they introduced a series of small adjustment changes. Adjustments like moving the dining table outside the kitchen, because they understood that life in a house in India can be different than life in a house in Stockholm.
Yeah.
Small adjustments like moving the shoe rack outside the house or near the entrance instead of putting inside the bedroom.
Yeah.
So I think respect is a key word here, and it's a good starting point for us. Try to find that balance between acting as in an Uber way or an open way.
Yeah. I think that's a really great wrap-up message. Thanks,
you so
Ibrahim.
much.
So respect, trust,
Yeah.
and that diversity is the reason to connect, not
Absolutely.
reject. Beautiful. Thanks so much for this morning, and I think it's really interesting, delving into cultures, especially in a country like Australia that's so multicultural. Everyone had a different background this morning, and when we opened up the conversation, it was so interesting and actually educational to be part of. So thanks for bringing that up, and thanks for contributing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, my
Thank
friend.
you.